There is a vast difference in the rate of delinquency for girls than there is for boys. Researchers would like to know what accounts for these differences. The first study to recognize the difference in offending between males and females was Lombroso's work, The Female Offender, which of course looked at physical characteristics, not environmental or cultural ones. Modern theorists are studying specific areas to try and determine why these differences occur. The concept of gendered pathways, that certain trajectories propel females and males into different attitudes and behaviors, has been proposed. Another way of considering the difference is to think in terms of gendered crime. This would ask, what are the ways in which street life, sex, and drug markets affect boys and girls differently? What kinds of differences exist in criminal opportunities, informal economics, and the structure of crime groups? And how could these differences create gender disparity in delinquency? And also, the concept of gender lives has been proposed. How does gender structure identities and the course of action that youth take affect their decisions and behaviors? And then, how do these experiences intersect with legal violations? Gender and gender-based roles are acquired through socialization. Children are socialized into pre-existing gender arrangements and construct understandings of themselves and how they relate to others in the context of cultural frameworks. As we all know, parents dress their infant children in gender-based colors and outfits, give them names that are gender-based, give them toys, and expect leisure time activities to be appropriate for their gender. One study tracked white girls and girls of color through the school system. It found that white girls tended to lose their self-esteem as they moved from elementary school through middle school and into high school. African American girls, by contrast, were found to maintain their self-esteem, but too often would become disassociated from school and schoolwork. Each of the theories that we discussed in Part 2 of this course can have a role and suggests different factors in explaining female offending and why the rates are different for boys and girls. Some theories are stronger for predicting offending for boys, but not so much for girls, while other theories may be more promising. For example, blocked opportunity theory is useful for boys. They are seen being concerned with short-term and long-term status and economic success. In contrast to this, females are seen as being satisfied to occupy a role dependent on a male. General theory of crime, i.e., general strain theory, would suggest that males are more likely to become involved in delinquency than females because males tend to experience strains conducive to delinquency and cope with strains through delinquency. Females, in contrast, may experience certain strains that may exhibit other directed delinquency. However, we need to also be aware that many females experience the same kinds of strain that are conducive to delinquency. Things like harsh discipline, parental rejection, peer abuse, negative school experiences, homelessness, and a strong need for money. The theorist Heimer, as discussed previously, has found that emotional bonds to the family were negatively related to delinquency. In other words, the stronger the bond between child and family, the lower the level of delinquency. But that coercive parental discipline and aggressive friends were positively related to the learning of violent definitions for boys, but not for girls, and that patriarchal beliefs about gender inhibited female violence without having any effect on male violence. The idea of the masculinity hypothesis is that as females become more manlike and acquire more masculine traits, they become more delinquent. The relationship between masculinity and delinquency was stronger for females than it was for males. Peer group influences have an effect as well. Research is revealing that peer group pressures and conformance to group norms tends to be higher in males than it is in females. Power and control theory uses class-based frameworks to study delinquency and proposes that as mothers gain power relative to their husbands, usually by working outside the home, daughters and sons are encouraged to be more open and risk-taking. Parents in egalitarian families then redistribute their control efforts so that daughters are subjected to controls more like those imposed on sons. In contrast, daughters in patriarchal families are taught by their parents to avoid risks. Patriarchal families are characterized by larger gender differences in common delinquent behavior, while egalitarian families will be characterized by smaller gender differences in delinquency. Labeling and interactionist theories would claim that males are more likely to be labeled as delinquent than females because males are stereotyped as troublemakers and males are more likely to become delinquent. An interactionist theory would propose that delinquency for both boys and girls takes place through a process of role-taking, and that girls' misbehaviors can be controlled by the display and reinforcement of certain positive values and attitudes, whereas boys may need more direct controls in order to curb their deviance.